Today on Meat Revival, how to cook a steak SCA style. Welcome back to Meat Revival. Today, what we're going to be looking at is the actual process to do an SCA steak contest.
We cut our steaks earlier. We did a little previous video if you watched how to pick a steak. This is going to be an opportunity to show you how to treat the steak once you've picked it, what you need to do once you get back, what trimming is necessary. This is one of the best steaks out of the whole loin. It doesn't need a lot of help, but as it cooks, there's some things that are going to change, and you got to think about the cooking process, think about the end result. Caroline Guy with RTR Grillers, she's going to trim the steak and just give you a quick overview of what parts need to come off, what parts need to stay, and give you an idea how to tie that steak up so it stays together and it's nice and neat and even, so it cooks evenly.
You're tying these steaks up. It's not just throw it on the grill and wish for the best.
This ain't the backyard, man. So Caroline, what would you do to this steak?
I would, let's see, I didn't really look at it that closely. I would feel around to see if there's any hard spots on it. Like right here is a little bit hard, so I would cut that off, and then I would try to even this up a little bit so that it doesn't like fall apart when you cook it. And I would cut a little bit of this off, and is that tail loose? Tail's kind of loose. You might want to take that off. What do you think?
Yeah, if it were me, I'd probably take it off. Keep in mind, y'all, whenever the judges judge the steak, this part that she's starting to trim on, this is the best tasting portion of the steak. So this part's going to get eaten. This part's not. This is going to be judged for appearance. This is going to be judged for taste and texture. So keep that in mind with what you're going to do to it. This part needs to look the best. This part needs to taste the best.
So the reason I want to get the hard part off is because they're gonna bite into it, and you don't want anything that affects your texture, adversely affects your texture.
Now this is a little silver skin on the back side of the loin. This is also, part of the portion that's connected to the rib bone. So whenever this comes off the rib bone, there is a chance that there's silver skin, connective tissue, and there's a chance there's bone fragments. So you want to make sure you feel for all of that. And see how that's all split and coming apart? It's going to go in there.
That's the part I was talking about. We want to make sure it's not going to fall apart when you're
you want to go in there and straighten all that up.
So this is really precise for when it comes to the contest. You're really wanting to make sure.
You want your edges to look pretty.
Right. Kind of like when we cook briskets, that we don't want them to be crumbly on the edges.
That, you want it to cook evenly, and you want to make sure that each judge gets the same bite. That was a little gnarly. It had a little gnarly spot, almost like it was a spot where they hooked it with a meat hook and moved it around on the table, And sometimes that happens. You just have to be careful with it. But see how she cleaned that up? Those edges are a little nicer and neater now. And she's going to go around here and pull some of this heavier fat and silver skin off the outside. And the further up on the steak she goes, the less work you have to worry about. It's just all about appearance at that point. They're not going to eat that part.
But you still want it to look good.
That's the key. It has to look good.
But as far as taste, you could really care less at that point.
Care less, right? See how easy that lip is coming off there?
It'll come off that easy on the grill.
Yep. If it's peeling off that easy now, when it heats up, it's 10 times worse.
So you don't want to have your steak falling apart because you're going to be losing potential rub or any flavoring or.
Well, and two, that part's the part that's judged for appearance.
Okay.
Now, if it was the other way around, well, I was worried as much about it.
Wow, that looks 10 times better already.
Yeah, see, she cleaned it up.
And so then after you've done that, you want to feel around just to make sure these edges that they're going to eat, you don't have anything hard there still. And just kind of clean it up just a little bit. And then I always flip it over and look at it from the other side just to make sure you don't have anything that looks bad or feels bad on this side too.
It's a nice looking piece of meat.
Very nice.
And then I always wrap around it twice. To tie it, because if you just tie it in the middle, sometimes it'll bubble out on either side.
Looks like a fat guy's belt. It kind of lays over, and if you've got two strands, it holds it more evenly, and it doesn't spill around the band. A lot of times I've seen people tie it really, really tight with one string, and they forget to take the string off because when it's done, they can't even see the string.
And you don't want it too tight because the meat will expand a little bit while it's cooking. When it heats up, it's going to expand. So if you get it too tight, it'll make it won't look as nice.
You'll have parts sticking up where it shouldn't.
There you go.
So the purpose of tying it is just to maintain that shape that you created,
Yes.
and not have to worry about
Not have to worry
getting
about
an
it.
amoeba out of it. You want that
Shape and also even thickness.
Oh, that's a good point. I didn't think. So welcome back. We've got our steak trimmed. We've got it shaped. It looks beautiful. What's the next step?
We're going to season it, and I start with the Boar Side Out White Lightning.
That's a pretty liberal coat.
You
Big,
want to,
thick piece of meat.
Yeah.
and you also want to, for competition, you're going to do it a little bit more liberally than you would at home.
Okay. Because it's a one bite.
Yes.
Yeah, if you were going to eat this whole steak yourself, you're going to be real easy with the seasonings. And you may have a sauce along with it. You may add a little salt at the time or something. But these steak contests, these guys have to pass this steak from one to the other around this table. And they cut off one little piece with a plastic knife and fork. And they eat that and they're moving on to the next one. It needs to stand out.
So we're going to go with a beefy rub.
This is Blues Hog, bold and beefy. It's salt, pepper, garlic. It's got some beef fat in it. It's a really rich flavored rub.
And I always, for competition, I always do a little bit around the side of the eye, or the spinalis, because they're going to get that bite.
That makes sense. You want flavor everywhere you can get it.
And this is Texas Chrome. Got a little heavy there.
This has got some black pepper. It's traditional kind of barbecue rub flavors, low sugar, a lot of black pepper. It's great for steak, great for brisket.
So you really want to pat this in and get that seasoning starting to permeate into that meat.
That's how I do it.
Yeah.
And I like to use a barbecue type rub at last on my steaks because it gives it a little bit of color. Makes it prettier.
So now what does this need? You kind of act like you know what you're doing, trimming this and seasoning it. What's the next steps?
Next step would be go on the grill.
Anything else?
Question from that is, do you go right from the seasoning to the grill, or if you're doing this in the contest, will you let it sit for a bit?
I would normally let it sit for about an hour before I put it on the grill, so the season has time to get into the steak, and it also tenderizes the steak a little bit because of the salt that's in it.
Oh, that makes sense. We'll be right back.
All right, coming off the board, this steak's seasoned and ready to go on. It's going to go on. Looks like she's probably going to put squares on this. So what you notice is she put the steak completely perpendicular to the grates. Excuse me, and it's going to stay on there for between a minute 30 probably. We're going to go ahead and start our timer.
Close the grill while we do that so it'll hold the heat in.
We want to close the grill, start our timer, and we want to make sure that we do our best to keep the time even between flips so that it's evenly done from one side to the other. You don't want this huge bullseye. You want to create as much of an even medium color as you can for the judges to see.
So what was the temperature on that grate when you put that in? Is that something you look at?
This little laser thermometer helps you ensure that you find the hot spots in your grill. They're going to be cool spots. There's going to be hot spots. It takes a little trial and error depending on the thickness of the steak. I like around 600 degrees.
This one was around 550 when we put it on.
And you know, this is a nice thick steak, so that's probably going to work out just fine. So what would you say the timing would be between flips based on the heat and the thickness of the steak?
I would start with 1.5 minutes, and then once we've done the first flip, we'll see how the sear is. If it's not dark enough, we'll leave the second side on just a little bit longer, maybe 20 to 30 seconds, depending on how different it is.
At the end of the day, you want to make sure that you get good, even, solid grill marks,
Right.
with a really good contrast of color from the meat to the grill mark. You don't want the grill marks hard. You don't want it changing the texture of the steak. You don't want it crunchy. You want nice lines, and you want that enhanced flavor. Grill marks look great, but we've done it every different way, side-by-side comparison, and we found that grill marks make it taste better. So, 1:30. What she's going to do now is she's going to rotate it 90 degrees and flip it.
No, I usually just flip it.
Oh, you're going to keep it even, okay.
Yeah, I usually keep it even. And then I push it down a little bit.
So you notice those are nice, even grill marks. And we're going to stop, reset, start it again.
And what is this cooker we're cooking on?
This is a PK Classic on a TX stand, so this particular casting has been around for 50-something years. I still cook on the same one that my parents had before I was born. The stand is a newer stand, but the casting's the same, and it's got a new handle. They're nice because it takes a small amount of charcoal to get the desired temperature at the grate. They're very resilient. You can haul them around the back of the truck. Not a lot to go wrong and break on it. It's just a real affordable, resilient grill for cooking steaks, burgers, whatever in the backyard, or anybody in the SCA competition world. That's usually what they use.
And it looks like those grates aren't a standard grate that you're cooking on either.
Those are grill grates. You can cook a good steak on standard stainless steel or plated grates, but grill grates, we have done side-by-side comparisons on the standard grate, on grill grates, or in a cast iron skillet. We've done it all, and grill grates enhance the flavor. They make the food taste better. It gives not only better appearance, but it evens your heat out, and it enhances the flavor more.
Prevents flare-ups.
Yep, yeah. If you got really fatty meat, it helps not only even the heat, but slows down those flare-ups by catching some of those excessive fats and juices.
Yeah.
A couple more seconds.
So you notice she moved the steak to a different part of the grate, and that's because that part was a hot spot, okay? If you flipped it over in the exact same place, that particular place is cool because of where the meat was sitting. So to get even temperatures, you're going to always turn it and move it to a different place.
And this is why I do it exactly the same on both sides the first time. That way I can see how I'm laying it down, which way my grill marks are going to work.
So now she's going to a 45 to get a diamond pattern rather than a square.
And
diamond,
brush the rub off.
Yep, and so diamonds or squares really doesn't matter. Some judges like one over the other, but I scored pretty well with either one. So now, 1:30 again, nice even grill marks. Now we're actually creating that crosshatch mark on that one side.
So we're running a 1:30, 1:30, 1:30, 1:30. So this is really a 6-minute cook.
It probably won't be completely finished.
Okay.
At the end of the cook at the 6 minutes. It'll probably need a few more minutes. If you notice there was an extra elevated grate, when it comes off of the grill grates, we'll many times move it off of the direct fire so it gets just radiant heat, and it allows it to slowly come up to the desired temperature off of the direct heat. What we're doing at that point is we're not changing the appearance of it or the texture of it. We're just bringing the internal temperature to where we want it. And that's a whole other story. Depending on ambient temperature outside as to whether you pull the steak right at the medium temp or whether you pull it early. There are different carryover measures that are designed for different ambient temperatures. What we mean by that is when it's cold outside, you probably want to cook it a little warmer than you would if it's cold outside. Yeah. What she said.
If it's cold outside, you want to cook it a little hotter than if it's warm outside. Because if it's warm outside, then the temperature's going to continue to rise.
Yep. The cold air is going to slow your carryover temperature greatly. If it's hot outside, you're going to carry over a little bit more. 1:30. Time for a flip. Look at those beautiful grill marks. Right back over. You notice you went 1, 2, 3, 4.
Ready? Start it.
That time, that way, each time she moves it, she gets even grill marks and even heat.
And it's clean grated.
That's clean, yeah. So, my guess is that when this minute 30 is up, this steak is probably going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of about,
120.
I'm going to say 115, 117. It's a nice thick steak, so it could be anywhere from 120 to 110 probably. I've seen it as low as 98. This steak had been sitting out for a little while, so its internal temperature before it went on was elevated somewhat, so I think it's probably going to be around 117 to 111, 117. What's your number?
I said 120.
120?
Mine will be 110.
Okay. You're doing the price is right. Under Bob.
It's a thick
The
steak.
one thing I did was in between the flips, after I did the second flip, if you may have noticed I brushed off the grill. That was to get rid of any excess rub that was left on the grill, so that when I did my next side for the crosshatches, I wouldn't pick up any dirty stuff or burned rub.
Makes sense.
When you're cooking for one bite, you got to pay attention to every little detail. Minute 30.
So it's been a minute 30. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this and I'm going to move it onto this elevated, and I'm gonna pick where they would measure it, which would be about in here, and I'm gonna stick my temperature gauge in there to that spot to measure.
Oh, we were all
off.
So we're gonna let it sit here in the indirect heat for just a couple of minutes.
Push it right there. Just stick it right in there.
See, the fat's not. You do it.
Let me see. If that was me cutting this steak, your spinalis is here, your eye is here, they really should cut it right there. So 102, 101.
And we got to get to what?
With the temperature we have out here, we're probably going to want to take it up somewhere in the, I'm going to say 128 degrees, somewhere in that neighborhood, what you think? So there's a couple different ways. You can put a probe in it now and watch it. There's a lot of different tricks you can do. You can open it and close it, but it slows the process down. Right where this is, it's kind of convenient actually, because you should be able to just kind of cheat a little bit right there. And watch it. It's got a little port right there. The idea is to make sure that we're always checking the temperature where the judges, or where the steak cutter is going to cut the steak in half for the judges. Because key to winning a steak contest is making sure that you hit your doneness marks, you hit your flavor marks, and your appearance marks. Doneness doneness is about the same weighting as everything else. Flavor weight's a little higher. So you do want to hit those marks. Make sure you hit your temps, but you want to make sure you hit your temps right where they're judging it. Not necessarily where they're tasting it, but where they're judging doneness, not flavor. So we've got a little pan with some melted butter and a little seasoning right here, ready for the grill. As soon as this thing opens up and we're able to check our temperature, we're going to baste it with just a little bit of this seasoned butter and take it off and let it rest for a minute or two. Try to time our numbers so that when it gets to the judge's table, it'll be ready to eat.
So that's just a rub and some.
Just a little bit of seasoning, a little bit of melted butter.
Just a little bit of Texas crumb in it. I typically use some of the same rub that I rub
Makes
on my
sense.
steak.
Yeah.
But the butter really helps with richness. It makes it shine. It's a real simple, easy finishing glaze for a competition steak. You don't want to get too crazy with it, but it really jacks up the appearance. So we're running 122, and we got another 3.5 minutes we're 3.5 minutes kind of into this process at 123 now. We started off at what, 104 at that same spot. So in 3.5 minutes, we come up 20 degrees roughly. So you can see how fast, once it gets to this point, how fast it really comes up in temperature. So when you're cooking these steak contests, you've got 2 steaks to cook. There's a lot of different strategies out there. Some people will cook the first steak, and if it's perfect, they'll turn it in. If they cook the first one, they don't like it, they cook the second one and turn it in. Some people feel it's better to cook them both at the same time and decide which one's best and turn it in. So you're gonna have to come up with your own schedule, your own plan as to what makes more sense for you. I know people that like to turn in first. The more people it seems like that I know that do well turn in later in the window. What I mean by the window is the turn-in time. There's usually a 30-minute window. You can turn in the steaks from just say from 12 o'clock to 12:30. 127 degrees. What do you think, Caroline? I think it's raining.
About a half, yeah, it's raining pretty hard. Think about another half temperature up, half degree up. I have cooked in the past. I have cooked the first steak. Thought it wasn't that great.
128.
Cooked the second steak, and when the second steak came off, it fell apart or whatever. So I ended up turning in my first steak. So you just never know what's going to happen in competition. So we've got it up to 128. We're going to brush it with a little bit of this butter. And then we're going to pull it off of this. And we're going to let it rest.
Beautiful. Good job. Nice
Looks great.
looking competition steak. So how long would you let it rest, Caroline?
5 minutes.
About 5
And
minutes.
then check it and check the temperature at that point and see if it's full. Because it'll continue to rise in temperature. And the doneness will get a little bit more as it rises. So you want to let it rest for about 5 minutes. See if you can get it up to, what do you say, 131, 132?
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Usually want to.
Now, will you let it rest uncovered like that?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Some people like to cover it with foil.
You can see I can see a
good
little
amount
heat
of
signature
yeah.
in steam.
Yeah.
There's a lot of heat there. But what you don't ever want to forget, you don't want to forget to take that string off,
Oh, yeah.
because that will take you out of the game for sure. That string is right there, and it will take you out of the ball game.
All right.
So this steak's been out for just a few 5, 6, 7 minutes. A couple things we didn't necessarily think about. In the new test kitchen, we have granite countertops. So we set this steak down to rest on cold granite countertop. So it may not have climbed up to its set point the way we had hoped. It might have. So it's been 7 minutes or so. The first thing you want to do when you get ready to turn your competition steak in is go in here and cut this string off. Cut the 2 strings, take it all the way around, and make sure you've got your tag ends and everything. You don't want anything stuck to it. Any little tiny bit of that left over will get you disqualified. So, when it's turned in a box, it should be turned in just like that with the lid out here. And if it's cut properly, this is the eye of the ribeye. And if it's cut properly, it'll be cut on a 45 just to where it cuts a cross section off the tail of the ribeye. Just like that.
That's perfect.
And it looks pretty darn good. This is where it's judged for doneness. This is where it's judged for flavor. When it's put into the box, it's turned like this so that the judge will see the doneness and the appearance. This is where they're judging appearance and doneness, and this is where they're judging flavor. So it'll be in the box just like this with the lid up here. As it gets passed around, the judges will cut a piece off with a plastic knife and fork and judge it accordingly. So, SCA Steak in a nutshell. What do you think?
Awesome. Thanks for checking us out today on Meat Revival. If you like what you saw, be sure to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you can get all the latest updates. If you have any questions or comments, be sure to leave them below. We'll see you next time.